There we go. And now I'm going to make Sylvan the, where'd you go? Host.
Thank you. And hello, everybody. I'm Sivan Lieber. As Carolyn said, I'm the Joyce parent. I'm just so happy to be back with St. Gerard's House. What an honor to be invited back to something. So thank you so much for sharing your time, your evening with me. I wish it were in person as well, but it's also a really special opportunity to see each other's faces in a different way. So I'm super excited to present to you some brain science, some childhood development, and some tactics and supports that I've learned over the years of working with children of all sorts across the neurodiverse spectrum in all sorts of classroom environments, and also as a mama myself. And today specifically, I'm going to be talking about a topic that is much held and also much sometimes feared, I suppose. Tantrums, right? Tantrums. But from the perspective of what is actually happening in our bodies, and also the idea that tantrums don't only occur in one subset or one age. Actually, we all have them all the time. I tantrumed a few days ago. Who else? Right? We all have them. So let's learn to hold them. And I call myself the joyous parent, but I don't mean that I'm happy all the time. In fact, I'm in the muck quite a lot. And I really believe that all of us deserve to normalize this and talk about it all. And the only difference, perhaps, between me and somebody else who might be suffering from tantrums is that I know I've learned over the years, the hard way, believe me, how to approach them from a different paradigm. And I'll already give two things away before I even start my presentation. The two biggest gifts that I've received in my tenure of teaching are to learn to not take things personally, because it really never, ever, ever, ever is about us. It's their story. Anyone who's tantruming, it's their story. And then we have our story, of course. And the second one is to make no assumptions. And so if we can come into this space from those two angles, right? Making no assumptions and not taking it personally, we've already won. It's beautiful that way. Then we get to approach the muck from a different perspective. We get to see it. It's still there, right? It's always going to be there, but we feel it from a different space. We are there and we're able to hold it and witness it without letting it take over us. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm really thrilled to be with all of you. So a few housekeeping things. If you'd like a fancy trick I learned today, if you want for it to feel a little bit more organic, you might want to press on the three dots at the top right of your window and then just click on hide self view, and then you just see me. And it's like we're talking instead of staring at yourself. So that's one thing you might want to do. And then another piece of housekeeping is I'm going to put into the chat a beautiful companion workbook that I have created in order to pair with the space. It is an ebook that you can have for yours forever, and it's something that can guide you along in this journey, but you also might want to print it out later and take notes. It was sent in the email for the presentation as well, so maybe some of you have it, but also I want to make sure that all the information is being accessed by you in the way that you need. So if you're a visual learner, please enjoy that space. If you don't feel like meditating in a few minutes, we're going to have a little bit of a grounding. You can journal instead, etc. So with that being said, I will figure out this share screen presentation. Let's see, I think I'm doing it right. And I'm also going to be inviting you to just chime in whenever you have a question. Instead of waiting until the end, I'm of the persuasion of having a conversation, because we all hold wisdom in this space. So please do participate as much as you would like to and are able, and let's hold space for one another. So welcome to the flipped lid, why it happens and what to do about it, and how to hold space for tantrums of all ages. And before we begin, a few things you'll need. As I was saying, you could access that workbook. Please also do make yourself comfortable. Allow yourself to have that tea, to go in and out if you need to with me. Life is always welcome in the background. My daughter is out right over there. She's probably going to come in at some point to want to give me a kiss goodnight. So we all get to have life happen in the background. And just a special note on number 3 about shame or any of the other emotions that we parents have when talking about some of these topics. I'd like to quote Elizabeth Gilbert in her book, Great Big Magic, where she actually says it to fear, but I live in shame. I don't know about you. If anyone follows the Enneagram, I am shame led. Some of us are fear led, some of us are anger led. But she says, hello, you, when that big emotion comes. I know you. You are welcome. You may join me here, but you're going in the back seat. I'm in the driver's seat. So let's just enter this from that space that we're in the driver's seat, but we also get to feel all the feels, just as we want our children to be able to do. And we'll be talking about that today. So please don't hold back, be open, and let's get moving into some serious change. And as Ella would say, okay, great. And by the way, that is a picture of her in her best sweater in the mud. So I just love that picture. She got it all dirty like 2 seconds after this amazing picture. So, as she should have, right? So some things you'll walk away with, I hope, is getting complete with your parenting up to now. It's just so important. And if you were with me in my last webinar, I was talking about this concept of caterpillar to butterfly parenting there. If anyone wants a refresh, I'd be so happy to connect with you about it. But we're going to do a little bit more work around that today so that we can really dissolve into the goo and come out blooming and beautiful. We're going to learn a little bit about the brain science of tantrums. We're going to get some practical tools to resource you so that when the tantrum is happening, you know what to do. After the tantrum is happening, you know what to do. And perhaps some proactive supports for after, so that next time you hit up against something like that, you might come to it from a different angle. And then I'll tell you a little bit about some opportunities in a playful parent deep dive, because everything I do is about play and bringing the play revolution to the mainstream, play to the mainstream. So let's gift you with some play experience as well. So to begin with, I want to invite you to breathe. And we're just going to take 3 loving breaths in through our nose and out through our mouth. And as I said, if meditating or breathing is not your jam, then in the workbook, there are the first 3 pages to guide you along your way. And what I'm going to invite you to do is experience this really beautiful practice called the Miracle Minute. It's something that I use during my child's tantrums, something that I use during my own tantrums, and something that I hope that you'll walk away with today saying, oh, okay, I have this one thing in my back pocket. So yeah. So briefly, the way it works is the Miracle Minute. We can use it anytime we're feeling a trigger, right? Anytime we're kind of in that story, right? And we're feeling like, oh, okay, I'm out of control. This can be something that we can use. It takes just 1 minute to help us get back into a space of resourcefulness. And so the first step is noticing the negative self-talk that is coming up through you. Okay. And like I just said, in terms of shame or anger or fear, instead of ignoring it, letting it come through you, it's known that it takes about 90 seconds for emotions to run through our body and out if we let them. Key word, if we let them. So if we're not ignoring, pushing away, trying to push it deep down, if we're instead saying hello to it and allowing it to move through, it should do that. And if it doesn't, that's actually what trauma is. Trauma is stuck energy. So we greet whatever negative self-talk is coming up, which I tend to call my gremlins. You know, that voice is going, you know, while the things are happening, as they do. The gremlins. And we just let them speak for 2 moments instead of trying to fight them. Instead, imagine what it would feel like if your gremlin was coming through your head and instead you were being like, "Hi, baby. Hello. Hello. I hear you. I see you. You are witnessed. I understand why this phrase is coming through me right now. It sucks. And I get it anyway." So we take a moment to witness that negative self talk. And then what I want to invite you to do is for the first 30 seconds of the miracle minute, we speak to ourselves as we would to our best friend. Because I don't know about you, but I know about me, when I am in the muck and in negative self talk, I am so mean to myself. Who else, right? Like, we are so much meaner to ourselves than we are to the people we love. So let's treat ourselves as if we were our best friends, because guess what? We are. We are our own best friends. So, what would you say to yourself instead for 30 seconds? And then the last 30 seconds is just washing yourself over with gratitude. And if that's hard for you to access some invitations, I'm grateful for my fingers. I'm grateful for my breath. I'm grateful for sitting here. I'm grateful that I took this miracle minute, right? And if that's hard for you to access, another entry point is just remembering kind of like a movie reel, a scan of just times that you have felt joy. All of us have them, right? So my movie reel might be skipping when I was little, and then the first time I rode a bike, and then maybe when my daughter was born and I saw her come out of me, holy crap, right? All of that. So that's the miracle minute. Everybody feel good with it? Any questions? Okay. So I invite you to either journal through this, or if you'd like to come into this space.
Also, Siva, I would wanted to remind you about to let anybody in because I'm not the host anymore.
Yes. I'm
Okay.
I'm doing it. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Yes. So just taking a moment, if you can, to just safely invite the most recent trigger into your space for just a moment and saying hello to it. Okay, just noticing what that might feel like in your body. Saying it's okay. Excuse me, allergies today. Okay, now for 30 seconds, and I'm going to time you. Talk to it. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. As if you were talking to your best friend. And don't forget to breathe. So go ahead, 30 seconds, loving on that negative self talk right now. Keep going. Beautiful. 30 seconds of gratitude or just washing over reels and memories of joy. Go ahead. Take another beautiful deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Allowing yourself perhaps to sigh it out. Maybe breathing one more time. And out. Welcome back. That's the miracle minute. How did that feel? Would anyone like to unmute and share what the miracle minute felt to you? Okay, well, I hope that that is something that you can hold with you, with yourself, and bring to yourself and with yourself. And if you'd like to also go ahead and share in the chat how that felt, right? How calm, how much calmer are you now from 0 to 10, 0 being it didn't work at all. See, fine, I'm not going to do that. Versus 10, that was pretty awesome. I'm going to start doing that. And if you're near a 10, right? You don't have to be at a 10, of course. But if you're near a 10, I also want to invite you to kind of just set a timer for yourself every day And invite yourself into the miracle minute at least 3 times a day. I like to do it right when I wake up, kind of midday, and right before I go to sleep. So it becomes a practice. So you can go ahead and share that too. Relaxing about an 8. Thank you. Beautiful. Good. It's easy. It's just a minute, right? All right. So moving on. So we have our one of our tools. And now we're going to just start thinking about those messages of our parenting as a daily practice, because this is the thing. This is how I feel as a parent, yeah, right? The connection, the love, the joy. Oh my goodness, I'm so lucky. And this is just how I've always pictured sharing my moments with my child, right? But then also, this is how I feel as a parent. Anyone relate to that one? And this is how I feel as a parent. And this is how I feel as a parent, right? We all feel so many different ways. Oh, the most relaxed you've felt all day. I'm so glad. Beautiful. Yay. Good. No matter what, now you have something in your pocket. Right? We all are in the muck. And especially when a tantrum is in our purview, perhaps, right? But this is the thing, no matter where our children are on the neurodiverse spectrum, 99% of the time, it's our energy that we bring into a room that can shift everything. Can anyone relate to that? Right? Like I've had days in my classroom where I've been like, what happened? And I'm like, oh, that was me. Oh, that was totally me. And then the next day, always after a really hard day, does anyone else have this experience? The next day is like, wow, this is the best day ever. Right? It's just such a funny thing. Right? So this is the thing. Our energy, our children feed off of our energy. And our children understand, right? Our children understand when our energy is off. And oftentimes we are the reason that can we are the thing that can tip us over, right, into another way of being. So let's learn how to reconnect in a way that allows us to approach the muck from a different angle. So let's begin with the brain science. This is beautiful research by Daniel Siegel, if anyone's read The Whole Brain Child and a ton of other work that he's done. It's also very heavy lifting, I would say, read. So I'd like to consolidate it for you today. So the way that we're going to do it is we're going to take his concept of the flipped lid. So if you take your hand, okay, and you imagine your thumb as the amygdala, which is our emotion center, it's our feeling center, it's our reptilian brain. And then you take the other 4 fingers and you picture them as the prefrontal cortex. You usually, when we're in a normal state, this is how we are, right? We're connected. Our thinking brain is connected to our feeling center. But when we are in a trigger, when we are in a flipped lid, what happens is literally they separate, they disconnect, and then we're left just with our animal brain. And that is actually when we are activated into fight, flight, or freeze, and actually also recently discovered annihilate, which explains a lot of things about police violence and stuff. Just a fascinating little tidbit there. So we get into fight, flight, freeze, or annihilate, and then we can't think, right? I mean, can anyone remember the last tantrum you've experienced in yourself? I don't want anyone touching me. I don't want anyone talking to me. I don't want anyone doing anything, right? So it's an impossibility to function during that time. And that is actually what is happening. And it's great evolutionarily. It's the way that we have survived for thousands of years. Not so great in Western society when we've got to get our children out the door to school on time, right? So let's break this down into 3 parts. We're going to talk about during the tantrum, we're going to talk about after the tantrum, and also before the next tantrum, because I want you to really be able to be resourced so that you have a different way to approach this the next time. So starting with during the tantrum. And like I said, you can follow along with the workbook and take notes, perhaps journal, ask questions later. And also, if anybody has a question, please make it known in the chat, or I'll do my best to kind of scan through everybody, and if you're raising your hand or something, to try to see you. Okay. So during the tantrum, we're disconnected. Okay. We're triggered. We can no longer think. We can no longer hear. We're just in it, right? So during a tantrum, it is not the time to demand, negotiate, explain, cajole. Can anyone relate to that? And I'm sure we can think of maybe 10 more things that it's not the time to do. I see some nodding heads, some smiling faces, right? It's just not the time. But it is the time to do a few specific things. Can anyone guess what the most important thing is for us to do when this is happening, when there is a flip lid? Anyone want to chime in the chat or unmute yourself? Okay, here it is. Keeping connection. But with who? With yourself first. Okay? So the thing that we want to do is we want to be able to, as grown-ups, who are perhaps, sharing that energy in the situation, to first and foremost, no matter what, help ourselves ensure that we are back and connected, reconnected, so that then we can give that loving wait time, that container of safety and acceptance and love during that time. And sometimes it can be scary, right? Because there are certain times that we think it might be self-destructive, or perhaps disturbing others, or it could be embarrassing, all those things, right? But if we are not working on our connection, we're going to also be flipped. And then that's when it goes, right? Then it's that tennis ball effect of making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So we, as the grown-ups in the situation, who have already, perhaps, hopefully, learned some emotional regulation skills, right? We get to first resource ourselves and take that moment. You already have one tool now, the Miracle Minute. Literally just takes a minute, right? To accept that gremlin for a moment, wash it over with love, and perhaps flip your paradigm a little bit. But then there are also other tools, right? There are many, 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 many different things that we can do, because oftentimes, like I said before, their flip lids are caused by our flip lids. So let's reconnect, okay? So before we get into some calm down strategies and other things, practical tools, here is a real life scenario that happened with Ella, my daughter, when not too long ago at all. Does anybody want to read it out loud, or shall I read it? Anybody feeling like participating? It's okay if you don't want to. I get it. Okay, I will read it. Ella wanted chocolate, but we didn't have any. We just did not have any. Also, it was right before dinner. So I offered her raisins, I offered her apples, I gave her dates, a clementine, cucumber, literally all the things I could possibly think of. And what does she do? It won't give me food. Why not? Won't you give me food? And I'm the baddest kid ever. Why won't you? I'll never ask for food again. I mean, like this is what's happening for well, she was 4 then. Now she's a new 5. Right? Shrieking, squirt. I mean, she will just not have it. Okay. She started throwing pillows. She said to me, I want to hit you right now, but I'm not going to, which is, she didn't want me to touch her. Really, really mad, right? Like over and over and over and over. So what would you do if this were your child? I have a few multiple choices. A, say, stop crying and wait for your food. Get over it. Go to, right? I'm sorry, Luna. Here, I'll run to the store. I'll get you the chocolate. It's okay, honey. It's okay. Get angry, start yelling also, perhaps, right? Mm-hmm. So many different scenarios, right? Or, and actually I'm blocked. Now I can see myself. Start crying too, right? I get it. Sometimes that happens to us, right? So here is the very first thing that I did in this moment. I waited. And I waited more. And what we can do in this moment is we can just breathe and reconnect. And then we're able to hold space. And, there are a lot of different schools of thought. Oh, beautiful. Wait, speak calmly. Beautiful. Yes. There are a lot of schools of thought and there are a lot of different approaches to this, but the basic chemistry of it all is that the normative typical tantrum lasts 10-ish minutes, could last up to 45, and in extreme circumstances, perhaps a little longer, right? But they're going to be exhausted, right? So we get to reconnect. We get to have that deep breathing. We get to have that space. We let that emotion move through our bodies for those 90 seconds and out. And the thing that I do always, and I've done this in my classrooms with all sorts of children across the spectrum, I'm here for you when you're ready. You are safe. And with Ella, I say, you are loved, right? You are loved, you are safe. What do you need? Just feel it all, baby. Let it out. Feel it all. Why do you think I would say that last line, the feel it all part? Why is that one so important? Anyone have any ideas? Well, what I notice is that in society, especially Western society, right? There's the whole boys don't cry, right? Get over it, tough it up, right? All of that. How often do we just let our children feel? How often do we let ourselves feel, right? And then there are also different ways of expressing this feeling, right? In all different ways. And oftentimes, right, our children cannot express they're not able to be in that space, right? They don't know what is like actually happening. They're just in the flip lid. Also, especially of course with sensory issues and things like that, right? And all of that overcompensation. So we want to just be that safe container and we want to be reconnected ourselves. Okay, so we reconnect. So some things to try during a tantrum. We model our own calm down strategies. We know how important this is to model our emotional vocabulary, social stories, helping to guide our children in other coping strategies that could then become tools for working, right? And we want to shift our own negative energy, right? We want to reconnect our flip. And like I said before, some things to say: you're safe, I'm here. What do you need? You get to feel it all. And then number 4 is a really big one, in my opinion. Just this modeling of also normalizing this as well. When I feel, what about you? Right? And perhaps explaining the expression on our faces and tagging that to the vocabulary. Perhaps holding that space and telling a story about when you yourself were experiencing something else comes later, right? All of that comes later. But right now, we just want to hold that space and just repeat a mantra: you are safe, I'm here, right? And sometimes I even leave so I can reconnect and then come back. And I say, you are safe, I'm leaving for a moment, I'm resetting. That's a huge deal, modeling our own coping mechanism in that space. And that's something that oftentimes actually they're going to suffer more of. That energy is up because of us. So is there anything you might say or do during the next flip lid based on what we've shared so far? Any changes, any questions, any shifts in paradigm that anyone would like to bring forth before we move on? Go ahead and journal about that if you want to also in the workbook.
I think definitely collecting ourselves before trying to assist our children is a good idea. And I definitely have seen that have better results, just for them and also for my own sanity.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That was Emily, right? I believe.
Yeah.
And then thank you, Emily. And then I also see I walk away for a bit. Yeah, that's a huge deal, right? So I hope that after this conversation, you will give yourself the permission to walk away a little bit, right? Every now and then, and just give yourself that space to reconnect. And then that is also modeling for our children a different way of being. It's saying it's okay to feel this and to have this and to go through it, right? We're here, we're in it together. So thank you for that. Okay, So moving on to after the tantrum, this is the big one. This is when all the things we had wanted to do and say perhaps can be done and said. So after the tantrum, some things, of course, we want to provide warmth, however our child accepts that warmth. Naming what we think was really happening. So this is the time when we use non-conditional language, and I think that's really super important, and also I statements to say something like, perhaps, when this was happening, it seemed to me like you were really frustrated because of this and this. Is that so? Right? Instead of telling them what to think and feel, asking them, right? So that non-conditional language, but also giving that mirror and also modeling that emotional vocabulary and that support and that connection and observation of the experience, right? Another piece of it is if the tantrum was caused because of a boundary that you set, now is the time to explain the why behind the no. And just one quick strategy as well, or a little tidbit for just the proactive piece that I'll get to later, is also when you're saying no, please add the word because into your sentence. Not just no, no, because we're not going to have time, right? Or no, because the chocolate literally is not in the house, right? Please gift your children with the why behind the no. Like I said before, relating from our own lives, that's such a beautiful gift we can give our children. It also really helps to dissolve the power over versus power with dynamic. It helps us shift into power with and a co-creation of experience, and allows us to normalize, and instead of us holier than thou adults telling the kids what to do because we said so and we know better, right? No, 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 no. You know what, Nula? 2 days ago, I really wanted chocolate also. And I realized that your Abba, your dad, ate the last piece and I thought that was my bar and I was pretty peeved, like relating to the experience as well. Choice. Choice is a big one. It is time to give choice in our proactive conversation, reflective conversation after, so that we can then provide a different paradigm for next time. And let's just celebrate our children's experience and acknowledge all the things that were really true and good and pure and beautiful, even within the tantrum, right? There's this brilliant book. The author's name is slipping my head right now, but a brilliant researcher in education. It's a book called Troublemaker. And the whole idea is about how, what if the children that we label as troublemaker, she does 4 case studies following 2 children in 2 different schools, a very different socioeconomic status, who are labeled as troublemakers. She follows them around and she provides the case for what if, instead of trying to force our children into an esoteric square space and try to shift them into what society has deemed the only way to succeed and achieve. What if we were to see our troublemakers as the canary in the coal mine and listen to them and their need and their experience and shift the system for them, because they are actually lighting up some really big shadows that need to be dismantled. So it's a beautiful, amazing book that I think every educator should actually have in there as part of their education. So how can we celebrate and acknowledge our children, even not just despite the tantrum, but from the space of the tantrum? I'm wondering how that lands with anybody. If anyone wants to share your experience, and if any of these I'm so sorry. Something weird just happened with technology and my screen's just shifted over.
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything for a minute.
That was very weird. And now my presentation is on a different screen. Sorry, everybody. 1 second. I hope I have just a few extra minutes at the end of this, if that's okay with everybody, so that I can get you back to being able to see this. Very, very strange. Okay, I'm going to key it back up. Flowing with it all. Okay, I'm going to share the screen again, and hopefully we'll be back into the slide and the presentation. While I'm dealing with this strange tech flip, does anybody have any questions? I can multitask while I do this. Just unmute yourself, or any comment or wisdom, please, please. Okay, I'm almost there. Oops, oops, oops. Why isn't this letting me do it? Okay, I think I'm back. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Sorry. So we were talking about all of these beautiful things we can do. And then also just again, modeling those calm down strategies and asking. And here's a huge key. And here's a piece of the co-creation as well of the experience. How can I help you better next time this happens? And imagine just how this normalizes everything, because it's acknowledging that tantrums will happen and that they're real and they're normal and we get to have them and we get to feel them and it's okay. And also acknowledging our piece in it, right? We have a role to play. We are participants in this experience, in this dynamic. I want to know for my child how I can make it better for them the next inevitable time it happens. So how can we get brave and ask that question? Pretty amazing when you ask, see what they say. And then, how can we start to witness our own story, our own pattern? How many of us sometimes, have you ever had that kind of out of body experience of just waking up and being like, oh, that was totally in my head and I only recognize it days later? So just starting to get used to keying into our bodies and noticing how we're feeling during these experiences. If you get really good at tapping in, you might notice some patterns about literally how you're feeling in your body during these times, during the flip lid. Those are your parts coming up and speaking to you. And I've gotten so good at getting to know some of my parts that I know, and I have a lot of them, all of us do. I know when not enough girl, for instance, that's one of my parts is coming up, because not enough girl comes up as a feeling of heat in the back of my neck and kind of like a fluttering in my chest, which is a wildly different feeling than girl who doesn't have a voice, doesn't get to say her truth, which is like a closing of my throat and a feeling of like a pit in my stomach, heaviness. So I know when they're coming, I'm like, oh, there she is again, not enough girl. Okay, this is what this is about. This is why I'm in my trigger, in my flip lid. And when we are able to acknowledge our story, it pulls us out of the story. We still have the story, but then instead of being ruled by it, we get to witness it. That is just such a different experience. So how can we model doing that? And then when you do, saying to your child, you know what? Not enough girls up right now. I've got to regroup. I've got to reconnect. I'll be back in a moment. It's amazing what they're capable of holding for us. So now we had some tools for what to do during a tantrum, after the tantrum. Now let's talk about those proactive strategies for before the next tantrum. So some things that we can do. And this is so key. And anyone who works with me laughs at me because almost every question that is asked, I start with at a neutral time when it is no longer a loaded situation. But truly, at a neutral time, can you connect with your child and talk to them about these things so that you are modeling them and practicing them to a point where in the moment it is actually, we don't have to have any more cognitive haul, right? We just have our go-tos. And so some things that I like to suggest is that when we're in a flip lid, can we identify already now at a neutral time, right? I'm assuming none of us are in a flip lid or triggered right now, I hope, by my conversation, right? Can we now just skim back through our memory and in the workbook, just list maybe 3 different calm down strategies that have worked for us in the past, things we know help us to regroup. Can you source those? And please feel free to share in the chat, because every single one of us is such a different experience, and every single one, there are hundreds of calm down strategies and rapid resets that we can use. So let's learn from one another. It would be great if everybody shared at least one. That would be so cool, and then we'd have so many ideas to fall back on. One of mine, this is one that I thought everyone knew, but I guess not. When I'm arguing with my husband, we take off our pants, because how can you take each other seriously when you're in your underwear? Like, the yelling just diffuses in a different way. We take off our pants. But then he also knows we're in it. I'm like, if I'm taking off my pants, he knows I'm angry as well. So that's one. Another is just getting a glass of water and also offering the person who is perhaps in this power dynamic with us a glass of water. I mean, imagine how beautiful that feels. Like, you're in it, and then this person that you're really angry at offers you a glass of water. You might want to knock it out of their hand. That's also true. I acknowledge that. But also, what an offering. Let's just take a sip together. Let's pause for a moment. Any others, please just write them in the chat as we go. And what I would like to invite you to do is identify 3-ish calm down strategies today, and then literally create a cheat sheet for yourself and post it in different parts of the house or in your space, so that when you're in a flip lid, you don't have to think again. You're just like, oh, this is the thing I said works for me. Let me do it. Another piece that could be really, really helpful is role playing what we've decided on for a calm down strategy and getting so good at it that it's rote by the time we're in it. So, and I can walk people through that as well in a playful parent connect. I'd be so happy to, or a playful deep dive, to literally practice this and role play how we might invite our children into experiencing a different way of being, so that we practice it, we give each other feedback, we practice it with puppets, we do a social story, we take pictures, we can even have a book about it, so that in the moment we have a resource at a time. And the calm down corner. It's the shift from the timeout chair. No more timeout chairs in my paradigm. Let's create a corner that's really cozy and beautiful, that has all the resources and the tools. This is something that happens in many classrooms. I do it in the home too. And so there are a couple different things we have in our calm down corner. I have it in mine, and Ella has it in hers. And so I remind myself to do the miracle minute. I also do waterfall breathing. So that just looks like this. And I do that at least 3 to 5 times. And the waterfall breathing helps move that stagnant energy through our body. Another thing is I give myself a time in. And this is actually more of a proactive strategy, but I have a devoted 20 minutes of uninterrupted connective time with my daughter every day, no matter what, at the same time, so that we can have that connection. And it's a very preventative and beautiful and loving space and a ritual. But then also I can key into a time in and just be with my child, even when she's crazy, trying to throw a chair at me, all the things. I can be with her and I can just love on this moment, because these moments aren't going to last. Even this can be loved on. So the time in. And really, what works for you? What works for you? Write it down for yourself. And then for our children, Namasata is a really beautiful tool and strategy. It helps the sounds namasata have been proven to help reconnect the two hemispheres of the brain and help us to calm down and balance. And it involves finger tapping. So taking each of your fingers and tapping them to your thumb while you repeat these syllables. Namasata a few times. And then some people I work with love to add a mantra to it. So remember Not Enough Girl? One of my mantras is, I am enough. I am enough. So I invite you to come up with a mantra for yourself and your children as well. Categories is super fun. It's a deflective, it's a deflective for the brain. So in the tantrum and during the moment, it's just, let's name 5 animals, or what is your child really obsessive with in the moment or really in love with. Have them name 10 of them, right? Like, tell me about 5 parts of a tractor, tell me about 10 bugs. Ella is obsessed with Paw Patrol right now, or whatever, Pup Patrol. So when she was recently stung by yellow jackets, she stepped on a ground nest. Poor kid, she was chased and she was stung something like 13 times, and we were able to run into the car and close the door, and somehow they did not go into the car. But she was, of course, rightfully, justfully so, just justifiably crazy, just lost it. And then I happened to have Paw Patrol band-aids, and she was like, Sky, Marshall. And then she repeated all of their sayings and slogans. It's amazing. So name 5 Paw Patrol pups. And then I'll name them too. It's amazing how it works. The glitter jar, I'll show you a picture in a moment. I think I have that slide. Color it out notebook, such a cool tool. And I'll also show that to you. I think I have it in the slide. Do I have it in the slide? Yes, I do. So so in our current calm down corner, we have a singing bowl, and then in our language, in Hebrew, Ima is mother. So these are my calm down strategies, and these are Ela's current ones. I also like to recommend that you make it together and you make it really visual, and then also perhaps Velcro it so you can switch them out, because calm down strategies aren't going to be the same and perfect and lasting forever, right? So make it a useful tool for yourself, perhaps laminate it, perhaps go all teacher on me and laminate the whole thing and Velcro it and all of that, so that you can use it for a long, long time. So here's the Color It Out journal. It's so fun. Oh, I realized I did not take a picture of the actual inside. But so the idea is coloring out, first of all, choosing a color, a crayon that matches your mood, and coloring it out in the way that matches your mood. So, maybe you're taking like an angry dark blue and you're like, getting it all out. And then in any way you need to. And then once that's out, it's another way of processing and moving the emotions through and out, right? The next piece is choosing a color and coloring out how you want to feel next. So it's a much more concrete, malleable, tactile way to process emotion. Super cool. I've done it with really little kids too. And also older kids. Ella has, this is her calm down elephant that's in our corner. And the glitter jar represents the turmoil in the brain. And we shake it, shake it, shake it. That's the flip lid. And then we watch it settle and calm as we deeply breathe. And I can explain to anyone who wants to how to create one that works with a few ingredients in it. So what I want to invite you to do is whatever you take from this moment, please make it yours. And the 3 top things that I want to invite you to do, and this is also in the workbook I shared, is setting an intention, not a goal, an intention for the next time that there's a tantrum. What can you do that's going to be sustainable, right? We want it to last. We want it to be something that you can use again and again and follow you. Attainable, something that's actually realistic, something that's going to actually serve. And we want it to be something that it feels so good, so nourishing, so loving that it's effortless in the moment. So just taking a moment to breathe that in. And just scanning through what we learned today, because I know it's a lot. And perhaps one or two people sharing out what intention you might make for yourself now, what most served you from this bird's eye view time together. Anyone want to share something you're going to be taking back with you into your life? Write in the chat also. When we're in person, I'm going to expect more participation. I'm kidding. It's okay. Everything's
It's hard. It's hard to
I know.
to get inside your head and on this, which is really good. And I'm sure everybody's just in the moment, you know.
Oh yeah. And slow down, be more
Yeah.
patient. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. So I have some invitations for you, ways to shift towards more peaceful parenthood, even when we're in the muck. So the first one is perhaps you liked the calm down corner and you liked the go-to strategies, right? This space that you can create for and with your children and for yourself as well. Let's make this a co-creation experience, a power with experience. So it's not their corner that they go to when they're upset. It's our space as a family that we go to cope with big emotion. So that's one invitation for you. Another one, and this is a little bit of like a bird's eye picture, but how do you want your parenthood to look and feel? Because oftentimes we plan the birth and we plan the nursery and we plan all these things. And then what about the day after? I mean, how many of us think, right, about what we want our parenthood to look and feel like and be like forevermore? And I believe that postpartum never ends. So it's never too late. You get to talk about that now. Perhaps if we plan it out, how we want our ideal to feel, then we can start to fit in the pieces of what's actually attainable, right? And then when we're in the muck, just accept yourself, witness the story, observe with curiosity. You know, like the last time I was really angry, pretty recently, I was just like, huh, that's interesting. You know, like really analyzing it, really thinking about what we might be able to do. And I'm seeing a comment about one of my sons are nonverbal, but a lot of this will work for my other children myself. I appreciate that. Yeah, I get that also, right? Like that's why the Color It Out notebook has been really successful for me with nonverbal children, because it's another way to tap in, right? We don't need to use words for that. And then there are also emotion cards, all sorts of other supports that we can use. But I hope that you're able to glean here. So much of this work is for ourselves first, and then we can greet our children, right? So what I want to do as a thank you for joining me today is I want to give you a special gift, and the link is in the workbook that I shared, but also the link is also right here if you want to copy it down. It's a really beautiful made with love ebook that just has other helpful supports and resources, some really beautiful spaces. And by signing up, you'll also get my weekly email blast. I don't ever spam you, I promise. It's just this beautiful pearls of wisdom and just a space to join in with the joyous community and connect and be together. So I hope that you'll enjoy that and share it with others. If this experience benefited you in any way, please pay the love forward and share this gift with others. I want the world to be able to treat this paradigm of muck from a different angle. And then in addition, if you liked the work, the tip of the iceberg that we talked about today, as I said at the beginning, I have a beautiful offering for anyone who wants to. Do a 90-minute session with me, one-on-one. Partners come for free, ask all the questions, any of the challenges when you're in the muck. Just let's dive in and gift you with uniquely tailored resources for you to practice in your toughest moments, to really align it with your family and your paradigm. I'll give you more specific tools, done for you materials, will really help you into that reset. And it's valued at $425, but I want to gift it all to you for less, just for being here. Just gift you that bonus price. And also, if you think that you'd like to gift it to someone else instead, please do. The information is on my website. You can also, if anyone is interested in joining this work, just write in the chat your name and your email. Right now, you can do it privately. You don't have to share your email with anyone else. But I've also made space for 2 free gift sessions for the first 2 people that say yes to do some of this work. It's not a 90-minute session, but it's a beautiful space. So also, if you want to have, if the deep dive is feeling like, oh, I'm not sure yet, but I do want to taste this and I want to have that one-on-one time, I have made time for 2 free gift sessions. So if that is something that you would like instead, please write your full name and your email, directly private message to Sivan, the Joyce parent, in the chat right now. And I will follow up with you to give you that information for a session. I'd be so happy to do that with you and for you. And I just really, really loved sharing this space with you. And just want to remind you that everybody deserves to shift, right? And we all deserve, and the way that people shift is by getting support and encouragement and accountability. And those top 3 things are things that we can access oftentimes. But the fourth, a mentor, someone who's been there, who knows exactly how you're feeling, who can be that support in your current corner, that's harder to get. So if that's something that you really feel like you want to do, go ahead and reach out. And you can write to me at sivan@thejoyousparent.com. You can check me out at thejoyousparent.com and get a free call that way. And I just want to remind you this beautiful quote from Mary Oliver: keep some room in your head for the unimaginable. So I think it is possible for all of us to greet tantrums and all of this from a different perspective. So I want to open up the floor if we do have time. I know we had a little bit of that snippet, that tech snafu. So if anyone does feel like they would like to, I'd be so happy to open the floor for a few questions and answers if that's possible right now in terms of your programming.
And I can stop recording so the questions can be not recording. Actually, I'm going to take the host back from you.
Sure. Thank you so much, everybody. Yeah. So just unmute and let's chat for a little bit. Thank you so much for having me here.
There we go. Great. Okay. So I've stopped.